Welcome back to chickens. So, um, so quite a while ago, I came across a video on one of the book channels that I usually watch about books with little to no romance. And so I watched that video, and then I thought I'd look up on YouTube for more videos about books with little to no romance. But the kind of video that kept coming up when I searched for that was books with little to no spice. Which, it's good and important to have those kinds of videos, but then that's not what I was looking for. And as I kept scrolling through, the only video I saw that was actually about books with little to no romance was the video I already watched. So I came to the conclusion there must not be any more videos talking about books with little to no romance. So I thought, well, we have to change that. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be. I'm talking about books I've read with little to no romance. We're kind of gonna start, and this is gonna include. We'll start with more with the books that I liked. Then, as we go down the list, it'll be books that I've given like lower ratings. So, yeah, and also since this is more of a well, I guess I don't know about recommendation video. Like I've tried because we have quite a few books to talk about. I've tried to come up with like brief synopsises, but some of these books I don't know how to sum up, so you will have to probably look up what some of these books are about. So, let's get into it. So, the first three books I have to talk about are all mystery thrillers. So, and among these are ones that I've really liked. So, the first one to discuss is Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. So, I first picked up this book under the impression that it had no spice, which that is true. But I realized later as I looked back at where I saw that what that thing actually meant, that I thought meant no spice, actually meant that there was no romance. But which that is also true. There is absolutely no romance in this. I think mainly because this book is about the relationship between mothers and daughters, and there are hardly any men in this story. So, so yeah, with the synopsis, like I don't want to say too much about this book because I feel like with this book, the less you know about the plot, the better. So, but how I will sum it up is this book centers on two events. We have murder at a care home and a baby being taken from a supermarket 20 years earlier. I'll just leave it at that. So, and also, I guess one thing, and I mentioned about the title Good Bad Girl. This book is the definition of I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs. Which I don't know if I cared for that element, but if you're into that, you might consider picking this one up. Also, I feel like content warnings, like I guess obviously no spice because no romance. Um, but I remember I came to a point where I expected there to be language in secular books, but I don't remember much about the language in this book, so let's see. Okay, I flipped through this book. If there is language, it's pretty light because on the pages I flipped through, I didn't really see any. So, yeah. The next book I have to talk about is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. How do I start talking about? I guess I'll start with the synopsis. So this book is about a woman. I think her name is Isabel. And her son was kidnapped, and the story takes place about a year after that, and she's trying to make sure that the case doesn't die because it's gotten cold. She still wants to find out what happened to him. And so she meets this guy who hosts a true crime podcast, and together they team up to try to solve what happened to her son. So with this one, so this woman, the main character, like she was married to the man that fathered her son. So, and their relationship is talked about a little bit, like kind of like in the past, but despite what it might sound like from the synopsis, there is no romance between the woman and this true crime podcast guy. At least I don't remember there being any romance, but I think I would remember there being something there. So yeah, yeah. So that one. It's also, and I don't remember much of the language on that one. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this one. So, but yeah, I forgot to mention that with this list, I'll be talking about, like with books that don't know romance, I'll be talking about anything that pertains to those kinds of relationships. So yeah, that's why I mentioned that in the last book that the main girl's marriage is talked about. So or past marriage. So anyways, but another book by Stacey Willingham, Only If You're Lucky. So yeah, I just talked about this book in my last video. So yeah, this book is mainly about like female friendships. You have this girl who was supposed to go to this university with her best friend, but then her best friend dies, and so she still goes to the school. Then she meets this mysterious girl. They become friends and they move into this off-campus house with her other friends. Um, but then, while later, one of the boys they they're renting this off-campus house from this fraternity, and one of the boys from that fraternity is murdered, and then this mysterious girl is just missing. But things are not as they seem. So in this one, there is kind of like relationships around the main girl, and it's talked about a bit, but there's no really romance involving the main character. The only thing that I'd say that like really involves like some hint of romance with their main character is, to me, some lines seem to imply that our main character experiences some same-sex attraction towards some of her friends, but it never ends up being anything more than hints, and as I've said before, some people might not even interpret it that way. So yeah, and the only thing I would like caution with this one, I've asked if there's language in the prior books. I do remember this one does have language, like um, F-bombs and I think other words. I can't remember how frequent it is, but it's something to consider if you do want to read this book. So yeah. And by the way, all four books, no, four, all the three of the books that I've just talked about, each one I've given 4 stars. So we're gonna jump off of mystery thriller genre and talk more of, I guess this would be middle grade, that I also gave 4 stars. Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. So obviously there is no romance in this one because our main character is a child. I mean, I know with children they can get away with like portraying like childhood crushes and like stuff like that, but there isn't even really that in here. So this book is about a girl with photographic memory, so she remembers basically everything, and she's really smart, but because she can't talk, nobody really knows how smart she is. But then there comes they find a way for her to be able to communicate, and then people realize how smart she is, and then things happen. Yeah. Yeah, this one I gave 4 stars, but it's kind of, I don't know if I'd say it's forgettable, but I don't really think of this one that often. So, but I think it is good. There are a few things that like things said that is like, eh, but but yeah, it's pretty good. And those things like they said that I was like, it's more of like me problems. Okay, so yeah. Right, we're moving into 3.5 star territory. And this next one, it leans more on the side of little romance rather than no romance. And that is Where the Blue Sky Begins by Katie Powner. Um, so yeah, this is a contemporary general Christian fiction. Um, so this one, basically it's about a friendship between this guy in his 30s who's temporarily moved to this small town in Montana, and this terminally ill woman in her 40s. Um, they've so this Eunice, the 40-year-old terminally ill, she's mated. She wants to, in her last days, to try to apologize to people in her past, and through circumstances, she's kind of told Eric, the 30-year-old, to help her with that. And at first, they don't really want to be around each other, but then they become friends, and through Eunice, Eric starts to think about what really matters. So, yeah, and again, from that synopsis, you might think that there was like more of a romance between them, but at least from how I interpreted it, there isn't really anything there. Now, with the little romance that there is in this book, it's hard to talk about without giving spoilers, because the little romance doesn't really show up until like right at the end. Um, but basically, something that is kind of mentioned here and there throughout the book kind of comes, it kind of, it kind of shows up at the end, and then and there isn't even really anything, but it's kind of hinted that there will be more of something later. So, yeah, that was, hopefully that was as, hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. So, yeah. So this next book is not fiction, um, but I still wanted to include it because it's still a story, and it's Christian. Um, so that is A Cup of Cold Water by Christine Fahrenhorst. This is a biography of a woman named Edith Cavell, and there is no, and Edith, as you'll find out in the book, she never married, so there isn't really a romance. Well, I will say, so the prologue of this book, it talks about Edith's parents' relationship, and so there is a little bit of romance in that sense, but as again I said, there's no romance for Edith, so it's just at the beginning. So yeah. The next book to talk about is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. So with this one I think the show, I haven't seen the show, but I know that it's controversial with it allegedly increasing unalivings among teenagers. Um, but this book, I don't know if I'd say this book deserves that kind of controversy. Like, part of me even says, like, I'm not even sure if it's really for people who deal with those kinds of thoughts. So, yeah, this book is about, so basically, a girl unalived herself, and she leaves behind these tapes of basically all the reasons why she did this. And we follow one of the guys who gets these tapes, and he's follow like him listening to them. The structure of the story is kind of centered like around these tapes. So with this one, um, so the main guy, the guy that we're following, liked the girl who died, and there is a little bit of talk about another girl he liked that, I don't know what to say about that. This is spoilers, but there isn't. So in the end, maybe this one is more a little romance than no romance, but yeah. So, right, now we're gonna kind of, actually, I never really rated this next one, but it'd probably be like 3.5. So that'd be A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle? I don't know how to pronounce that. Um, so yeah, I don't really know, I don't know how to sum up this one, but it's a classic, so I'm guessing most people, well, maybe not most people, but some people a lot of people probably have a general idea of what this book is about, and if not, you can easily look it up. Um, so yeah, I don't remember there being any romance in this one. And I also know that this one is the first in a series, and I haven't read the rest of the series, and I don't know if I want to. So, but at least for this book, I don't think there's romance. So yeah. All right, another I guess Christian fiction book, Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. Um, so yeah, again, first in the series. Haven't read the other books, but this one follows a guy who is basically kidnapped and taken to this planet, and then most of the stories you follow him on this planet interacting with the local aliens and stuff like that. So yeah, there's absolutely no romance in this. There's hardly any women in the story even. So yeah, and this one, I think I gave it 3 stars. It was like there are parts where it was interesting, but overall I thought like wasn't for me. But again, I was in my well, not again. I was in my I need to be drawn in to really like it, so I'm curious. Maybe I'll try the rest of the series and see if I like them better now that I'm out of that phase, but I guess we'll see. This next book, uh, I know it's written by a Christian author, but the author has discussed that she has chosen to write secular fiction, but as a Christian. So this book is What Lies Above by Caitlin Lambert. So yeah, I don't know how to sum up this one, because most of what I remember is I think in the part where it might be considered spoiler territory, but I guess it's dystopian. That's all I can really say. And I thought, um, how things were set up that there was going to be a romance in this, but there ends up not really being one. And I also know this is the first book in a series, and as far as I know, no other books in this series have been released yet. So I don't know, so I obviously can't say anything for the rest of the series. Um, and I know like um some people I don't know what to say if I'd recommend this one with it being part of the series because I know there are some people who don't read series until all the books have been released. So that I think with this one, I wouldn't say it ends on a cliffhanger. It does end with some things unresolved, but like but it didn't leave me itching to read the next book. So yeah. Right, and the last book, and definitely my least favorite, at 2.75 stars, Bound by Victoria Lynn. So again, the main characters are children. Well, so the main guy is 14 and the main girl is 8. So again, there be a guy and girl main character, but their relationship is more brother and sister found family. So this book follows again. I think the main guy was his name Levi. I think it was Levi and this girl Casey. They both come from really abusive households, and they both run away and they meet each other at this train station, and they decide that they're going to run away together. And so they do that, but then I think Casey gets injured and they get taken in by this family that they don't know is a Christian family, so they takes them in and they teach them about Jesus and stuff, and then things happen. Yeah. So I guess I'll give like I guess kind of a trigger warning for this one because as I mentioned a synopsis like these two kids they come from pretty abusive households, but what I didn't say is that we get to talking about their home lives almost right away, and it's not like disturbing, but I mean I was kind of like whoa, okay, we're going there right away. So heads up for that. um I think my main gripe with this one is that um it's just not that well written. And I almost forgot. to mention. So yeah, the main characters, they're like brother and sister, but there is kind of a relationship that forms among the side characters, but I wouldn't even worry about that because those characters, they're not even really in the story. So yeah. So again, I didn't really like it, but I mean, if no other books in this video has interested you, you could pick it up. Um, so yeah, I don't really know how to end this video. Thank you for watching. Hope you found a book with little to no romance that you want to read. And for those of you watching, if you have a book that you've read that has little to no romance, please put it down in the comments. So, and bonus points if that book with little to no romance is Christian fiction. So, yeah, that'll be all. Goodbye.